Hey guys, Cainebourne back with Elder Scrolls Online. As promised, I'm back with much more deep and comprehensive look at Elder Scrolls Online. I'm normally a Conan Exiles YouTuber, but because there is a lull in content there, and because, frankly, I love this game, I'm having a great time with it, I want to start to cover this game a lot more. I'm going to try to go as fast as humanly possible through this. This is just a crash course or a newbie's guide for noobs on important things that you need to know before you even start or if you've just started playing this game. I am by no means a veteran or an expert, so I will make some mistakes. Feel free to point those out in the comments. Those are really good for the channel in general, but obviously I have a lot to learn. But I want to share as all the stuff I've learned over the last 2 weeks, save you guys as much time as possible, and allow you to be as effective as humanly possible while leveling and playing your characters. This won't be a perfect guide for every build. I happen to be a Stamina Nightblade, but this is a good comprehensive guide for how to play the game in general. It's not based on a particular class. So the first thing I want to mention is that this game is incredible. It is a lot of fun. It's got great writing. With the one Tamriel update, which connects every single thing, or opens up rather every single thing in the game for any player, you can play with anyone, anywhere, of any level, regardless of any restrictions, whether they're in a different PvP faction or they're a different level and they've been playing the game for a million years and they've got all these veteran or champion levels. We'll discuss all of that. So right away to start out, I want to talk about questing. I had no idea what to do, what was important. I was running around. I had a quest book full of a bajillion different things. That was absolutely ridiculous. I was running around with a quest log just stuffed full of quests, had no idea where to go, what was effective, what was efficient, and I was scratching my head. So the first thing you want to do is just basically focus on your alliances quests or the zone quests. When you first start the game, depending on what alliance you're in, the first NPC in front of you is going to start a chain, and that chain is going to continue on and on and on throughout the game until you get basically towards the end. I haven't even finished my quest chain, and I'm level 40, and I did finish the main story. So first you're going to attack that alliance quest because there's a bunch of skill points in it. So it's not only going to help you level up, but it's going to give you skill points. And skill points are the lifeblood of your character. I will go into that a little bit more as we continue. Secondly, you're going to want to work on your main quest. The main quest is a quest line that a NPC called the Prophet comes and tells you this big grandiose story. Like in a lot of your other MMOs, it gets a lot deeper. There's companion characters and a lot going on. It's basically the crux of, the main story of this MMO as far as the portion that you're going to do that's not PvP. That quest is also going to give you quite a few skill points and is going to be very important, so you're going to want to do that. Then there are things called dolmens. Dolmens on your map are going to be these little swirly things. They're basically gates opening up from Oblivion where anchors are coming down and trying to pull our world into their world. So that's sort of a group activity. You're going to get some decent loot. You're going to get some nice experience. They're very quick and easy to do as long as there's some people around, so those are very productive. You're also going to want to do the delves. Delves are the little torches on the map. Those are like little mini baby dungeons. Most of the time there's going to be some sky shards inside and some little side quests that are worthwhile. You're also going to want to do any public dungeons or world bosses, and I will show you those by expanding the map out and just going to a zone that I'm very familiar with. Skull and Crossbone is a world boss. You're going to need a group of people to be able to take him down. You'll get a skill point in most cases and some really nice loot and some great EXP. You're also going to want to do, as I mentioned, the public dungeons. They look like this. Everything, by the way, is white once you've completed it and black when you haven't done it. So that's why these things are white. These are things I finished. But the public dungeons are a lot of fun. There's tons of people inside there. You're going to meet people, make friends, have kind of a cool story going on in there. And yes, you're also getting skill points. So you'll notice a trend here. You're going to want to do everything that gives you skill points and levels you up quickly. And these things will do it. In addition to those things, you can also queue up for public dungeons. Dungeons, the major dungeons in this game, can be found in the real world, and you can queue up for specific dungeons, and there are quite a few. However, by queuing for at least one random dungeon a day, you get a massive boost to your EXP and a nice little crate of or reward that you get for your faction, or for items rather, not your faction, that you can use that are really important. So that's very cool. The last thing you're going to want to do is while you're running around, you're going to want to pick up all of the sky shards. And sky shards are on your map, look like these crystals, and in fact they will not be on your map. I'm using an add-on that shows that, and I will have a whole separate video that goes in depth and talks about add-ons and why they're important. But the two biggest ones you should find right away are sky shards and lore books. As you're going around doing all of these things that I just mentioned, you can pick up all the lore books and the majority of the sky shards. For every one sky shard you get, you're going to get 1/3 of a skill point. So with 3, obviously you're going to have a full skill point. And again, those are the lifeblood of your character, and we'll get into that. I will have a whole video showing how to install add-ons, but if you do a quick cursory Google search, you'll find out it's incredibly easy. There's a documents folder where Elder Scrolls Online is and add-ons. You literally unzip them and just copy them into that folder. So super simple, and then you can enable them or disable them in-game. When you hit escape and you go to add-ons, you literally just check the box once you've done that. So very easy. I have quite a few that I'd like to explain to you, but like I said, the most important ones are going to be sky shards as well as lore books. Besides that, I have Master Merchant, which is incredibly important. That's going to allow you to do price checks all over the place through different guilds to get prices on items. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I will get back to that. So that should cover questing as a whole. A couple other quick points in this section that I do want to cover are going to be guilds. I just alluded to joining guilds, and so this is a great segue for that. When you're new, you're going to want to join as many guilds as humanly possible. You can join up to 5 different guilds. I am currently in 5. Some of them will have like a weekly fee or monthly fee or something, and usually that's because they have a very good stall or market location. What I mean by that is there is no such thing as a world market in Elder Scrolls Online. You have to join a guild and then place your items up on a store that they bid for and that they own for that month, I think it is at this point. I'm not 100% sure. As you can see with this guild, they lost their stall, so they don't have one, so they're trying to get the funds for the trader. But once you have this market, you can sell things on there and make a whole bunch of money. You can use that add-on I talked about, Master Merchant, to check prices. So if you have an item in your inventory and you'd like to see, for example, this blueprint, the going rate for it is $179.58 or 179.58 gold pieces, basically. And they show an all-time high and then generally the low. So you can see over the last 18 days and a certain number of transactions. The more guilds you're in, the more of those prices you could see, but I can't stress enough, only if you have that add-on Master Merchant. So that's very important. In addition to accessing the world, or the guild markets rather, by being in guilds, you're going to make friends, you're going to have people to adventure with and do dungeons, and people have made me gear sets. It's basically a social game. It's an MMO, so you're going to want to join some guilds. You're also, with all of the loot you get, you're going to be tempted initially to sell it, but that tiny bit of gold that you're going to get is going to be nothing compared to leveling up all of your different crafting skills by doing deconstruction. So you're going to want to go ahead, and when you open your map, in each zone there's going to be an area like this with a torch. There's a blacksmith, a clother, a woodworker. Each one is going to allow you to deconstruct different stuff. You're also going to want to research stuff as soon as you possibly can. You won't fully understand that system, but if you look at a piece of armor, for example, I have training as a trait on this armor. You could technically, instead of deconstructing this armor, you could begin to research that trait so that when you make armor, you can add that trait to each one of those specific pieces. You know, your head, your shoulders, your arms, so on and so forth. So we will get into gear a little bit more as I go on, but I just wanted to mention quickly, deconstruction and research early on. Learn about that, Google it, figure it out. I will have much more in-depth videos, but for the time being, don't forget about that stuff. It's very important. Aside from that, I think that's the majority of it. I did want to just touch briefly on collections. Collections are where a lot of your collectibles go. Surprise, surprise. You get things like personalities, where I'm an assassin right now, so I'm flicking my blade and looking kind of tough. You also get costumes that you can apply. This is the Assassin's Guild. This is the Thieves Guild. So those can be kind of neat. This is where you're going to find your non-combat pets that follow you around for aesthetics, as well as your mount and a bunch of other things. So that's a useful tab to be familiar with. So those are all the salient things with questing that you need to do. A couple of little side tips. I'm going to now move on to the character portion of the video. Alright guys, so for the character portion of this video, I want to tell you everything you need to do with your character specifically and on a daily basis to advance as quickly and as efficiently as humanly possible. So first off, when you start the game, you're not going to have any points into skills whatsoever. But you are going to have 3 class skill trees. I'm going to recommend that you put one of your 3 starting points that you get, even if you skip the tutorial, one into each section. For the Nightblade, it's Assassination, Shadow, and Siphoning. For you, it could be any number of things. But by putting 1 point into each of those skill trees, you are going to have all 3 of those leveling at the same time, which is incredibly important. It's going to be a lot more efficient. You're going to unlock all your different skills. It's going to be very useful to you guys moving forward. So I would highly recommend putting 1 from each tree, and they'll pop up on your hotbar. The skill sets and the set as well as the ability will only level up as long as it is on your active hotbar. So make sure that you definitely do that. I will mention though that once you've got up higher and you're up to a point where you know which is your favorite tree and you know the skills you're going to use, the more abilities you have from each one of those skill trees on your active bar will add a multiplier. So if I've got 3 skills from Assassination, Assassination is going to level up 3 times faster. The higher level skills will take a lot longer to level up themselves, and some skill trees have unique ways of leveling up. Passives and stuff like that can be a little bit different. Don't always have to be on the active hotbar. Some are attached to actual weapons, which leads me to the next point, talking about weapons. There are many different weapons in the game, and you're going to want to choose the ones you like, but you will have a front bar and a back bar. For me, I use a 2-hander on the back bar, and then I use dual-wielding daggers on the front. So I have skills to support that. I do also use bow on occasion, so I have leveled that up separately. Again, you have to level up all these skill sets separately, and they will only work as long as you have that weapon equipped and then those abilities out. Technically, that's not 100% correct because some of the abilities will still level that class tree, but when they're weapon-based, the weapon does have to be equipped. So if it's 2-hander, dual-wield, 2-hand, for example, let me give you a quick skill example. Underneath dual-wield, for example, flurry. If I have flurry on my hotbar, dual-wield isn't going to level up unless I actually am dual-wielding at that time. However, if you're in a class-based skill, I could have killer's blade and ambush on, and that would still level my assassination tree. That's going to be a little bit confusing. You'll figure that stuff out as you go. Armor is going to have similar things, different bonuses, and they're going to have passives. This is a great opportunity to talk about passives. Those are very important. Your racial passives are going to be very important. Certain passives will only apply to the type of armor you're using or the weapon or skill set you're using. So there are passives even in the Assassination and Shadow, all my skill trees. They're in my weapon trees, my armor trees, so definitely something to keep an eye on. And there are as well, they sometimes have active abilities that can get you out of trouble. There are world classes such as vampire or werewolf, which can be beneficial or negative, so you've got to pay attention to what class you are and see if those things are going to help. Again, I will always have comprehensive videos coming later that will go in depth on these topics. We're just scratching the surface and trying to have a quick crash course. But for vampire, for me, I like it. I enjoyed it. For you, werewolf or just remaining human might be better, but those skill trees need to level up as well, so they will have different specifics that govern them. Underneath the guild tree here, there are various guilds that you can join in the base game. The Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, Undaunted, and probably more that I don't even know about yet. They offer a full skill tree as well as passives. This is a good opportunity now to talk about the DLC. I can't recommend enough buying the DLC for this game, especially if you can find the Gold Edition with everything bundled in. If you get the Gold Edition with everything bundled in, you will be getting the Dark Brotherhood, which is the Assassin's Guild, with a whole, like I said, a skill line, as well as some of the best story questing and fun, interesting missions that I've seen in an MMO or in ESO for sure. The Imperial City, which while you can already do the realm versus realm or faction versus faction PvP, in the game by default. By having the Imperial City, it unlocks a whole new area, the city proper itself, where there's PvE mixed with PvP, where you're doing quests and fighting players. It's more organic. If you're used to open world PvP games, that's the part that I like to fight in the most. Orsinium, which is the orc city, I haven't actually looked at it at all, so I don't really even know what's there, but I guess there's some arenas, different armor sets, and dungeons. And then the Thieves Guild, which is very similar to the Assassin's Guild, not the same theme, but another guild with a skill set and some really well done story missions. So that is very, very cool. So I think it's definitely worth it. If you're deciding what version to get gold. Get these expansions. You definitely want them. They're not absolutely essential, but I can't recommend them enough. Since I'm already in the Crown store, I want to bring up this time to mention ESO Plus. ESO Plus was something that I agonized over for a bit. Didn't know whether the bonuses were worth it or whether I should sub. It is, after all, a free game, and you don't want to spend money. However, there are some nice perks. The experience gain is 10% faster, as well as money. Your research time is 10% faster. It can take anywhere from 5 to 6 hours to research a trait to put on armor, so that's helpful. Crafting inspiration, I'm not 100% familiar with yet, but I believe that when you're doing your crafting writs or building things, and that is more efficient, so probably important. You can add twice as many furnishings and collectibles and player housing, so your house can be full of more crap. You can dye your costumes, which you may notice I've dyed my Thieves Guild costume here with jet black, which you get after you finish the main world quest, which I guess, just to mention dyes quickly, they are unlocked with achievements, which I think is really cool. So if you've done a bunch of side quests or main quests or different things and get these achievements, that is unlocking different colored dyes like this one here. You get 1,500 crowns per month, so that's basically your 15 bucks back that you can spend in the Crown store, and there are a lot of cosmetic unlockables in here. But probably the single most important part of ESO Plus is the access to the crafting bag. That is a bottomless crafting bag where you can stick all of your crafting materials and you never run out of space. If you are going to get into crafting or just want to sell a bunch of crafting materials, this is almost 100% necessary, because you're really going to run out of space if you're not just managing this and selling it constantly. The bottomless crafting supplies bag is pretty epic. So that was really what made me pull the trigger, because I enjoy the crafting system. So that's a lot of information that I threw at you. There's just a little bit more here that I want to cover. In the Alliance tab, so once you basically go and you join the Alliance battlegrounds or war, you basically set yourself up for a campaign. Just to break those down real quick, there's a 7-day resource war below level 50 standard, which does allow champion points and non-champion points. So you're probably going to want to pick one of these two to begin with, and you just teleport into that area, and you're going to do a bunch of PvP, and we're going to talk about that a bit, and there will be further videos that are more in depth on that in the future. Below level 50, obviously below level 50. Standard means you're using champion points. I don't want to open up that bag of worms. I have no champion points. They've replaced veteran points. But basically, post the maximum level of 50, you can continue to make yourself stronger with champion points. And so there is a battleground that is post 50, but doesn't include them, and one that does. But by entering into the Alliance War and ranking up your Alliance rank, you're going to be able to level up two things, assault and support, and you're going to get some nice little utility abilities for PvP, but also that will help you immensely in PvE. I'm a Stamina Nightblade. Anybody who's leveled up this way or plans to does know or will learn the struggle. It is very rough because we can't heal ourselves. So getting this Vigor ability, which then morphs into Resolving Vigor, is incredible. It's a massive heal to myself immediately, and then a little bit of a heal over time. Rapid Maneuver allows me to move way faster, which allows me to quest quicker. And then under Support, there's Purge, which purges all of your different negative effects like snares and roots and things. Those are going to be immensely helpful in PvP, but also in PvE surviving. There's a lot more skills. I'm not going to go into every one, but I wanted to point those out as highlights that you might want to strive for. They're super, super helpful. I should have covered this by now, but racials are very important. Before you even make your character, make sure you do some Google work and find out what race fits the class that you plan to play and your playstyle the best. For example, I'm a Stamina Nightblade. Stamina is very important to me, So I have exhilaration, which increases my stamina recovery. I have conditioning, which increases my maximum stamina. And I have adrenaline rush, which allows me to replenish my stamina by physically attacking people. Those are obviously incredibly important for a stamina-based character. They are getting nerfed, but that being said, they are very important and useful. And then throughout all of your crafting trees, as I mentioned, you can do a lot of deconstruction and level these up, which is why some of this stuff is a higher level. You can then buy skills to supplement them. Getting the hirelings is pretty important because they will bring you materials. So even if you're kind of focused on other things, you'll be starting to build up some crafting materials rather than having to go out and gather them yourself. So that is basically all of the different skill trees that I wanted to cover. I do want to talk a bit about gear here, and I know this is a lot of information, but again, this is a crash course, totally everything you need to know before you start the game. Armor sets. Armor is going to have a total of 7 different pieces, basically. You've got your helmet, shoulders, gloves, legs, boots, belt, and your chest piece. There are then accessories, which is a necklace, and then 2 rings. Armor can have sets. For example, I am currently using a mixture of Hunding's Rage and Night Mother. And as you can see, some of those sets are active. So I'm getting extra weapon damage, critical damage, so on and so forth. So yes, you'll want to look for sets at some point. Not too much of a worry very, very early on. But if as early as you can get a decent set, wonderful. And another good reason to join a guild. I have no idea how to make this stuff or why I'm even wearing it. I kind of do. But a guildie helped me out with a lot of that stuff, which is very neat. Secondly, on the armor themselves, you'll notice that they have a trait where it says training increases experience gained. Those traits can be researched, as I mentioned, when you deconstruct an item. So you can learn that trait and apply it to different pieces of gear. But then also, me having training on all these pieces allows me to level up my skills a lot faster. And this gentleman actually put divines on a couple pieces. We'll talk about that later. But training is very important to level up your skills early. So try to find a kind soul or learn how to make training gear in the beginning. You're also going to want to enchant your gear. So all of your armor as well as your weapons. Notice how this has frost damage. My armor adds maximum health, and there's different things that you can do. Those are going to be done with glyphs. You'll loot glyphs. You can buy glyphs. You basically just right-click a piece of armor, click enchant, and then you pick the glyph that you want, and it'll put that on there. I completely forgot to do that in the beginning. It made leveling up a lot harder. By having a little bit of extra HP, I have a little more survivability for leveling. Ideally, for min-maxing purposes, it'll be more like stamina, recovery, or whatever, depending on my class. But that is something really nice to do early on. Also, you'll notice, or maybe won't notice, that I'm wearing mostly medium armor, because I am a rogue type, or, Nightblade. But I do have 1 piece of heavy and 1 piece of light. You definitely want to try doing that in the beginning. It'll allow you to level up all the different armor types at the same time, like we did with the skills. But there are also some certain skill lines where that's going to be important. For example, under Guild, if you go to Undaunted, they have Undaunted Metal. Increase your max health, stamina, and magicka by 1% per type of armor. So you'll get the full 3% bonus as long as you have 1 piece of each type of armor. And I should note, I talked about dungeons earlier. Dungeons are the best way to level up your Undaunted skill tree, and you can see that I have not done enough of those. Another thing that is infinitely important that you're going to want to start right away is the horse trainer. If you open up your map and you see the stable, basically, when you go to the stable, you can buy your horse there. If you have the gold edition, you don't have to buy a horse, but you can also train your horse's skills. And that's going to be incredibly important. Under your character tree, you can see the progress of your riding skills. You can only increase each one of these by 1% every 24 hours. So you literally have to play this game for a long time before you're going to have the full speed, stamina, and carrying capacity on your horse. So don't forget to do that every single day. In fact, I have an add-on with a timer that tells me when it's okay for me to go train my horse skills again. That is very, very helpful and very important. I touched on Vampire and Werewolf earlier. I talked about the Alliance skills already. I have a list here so that I don't forget anything. I also want to talk about attribute points since we have this open. You have magicka, health, and stamina. Unlike other games where you're going to want some sort of a healthy mix, whatever your build is, you're going to go balls to the wall 100% in there. So I've got all my 55 points into stamina right now. The only exception is that you might put a few points in health as you're leveling up. just for survivability. Also under this tab, you've got your maximum pool as well as your recovery pools. You'll notice my health recovery pool is pretty slow. That's because I'm a vampire. There are some other benefits to that. We'll go into that in further videos. Active effects here, there's a couple things that you want to think about. Eating food is very important. Food or drink, you can't do both, but it gives you a massive buff. Get a hold of some decent food. Right now, I think I am running just something I found cheap on the market. It increases my health by 6,000, so I definitely want to make sure that I have that running at all times. So we'll go back to the skill tree, and now you can see that I have my increased maximum health. You see my ESO plus and my vampirism. You'll see one more thing, Boon of the Thief. It increases my critical strike rating, so my chance to crit. There is a different Mundus stone for every astrological sign, I guess, the warrior, the thief, the whatever. You know, if you're familiar with Elder Scrolls in general, you'll know what these are. You do have to find them out in the world. I will make a video on where they all are and what they all do. But in the zone that I happen to be in Alakir Desert right now, the Thief Mundus Stone is here. All I did was walk up to it and click it, and I get a permanent buff. These buffs can change. You can, go and override it and get a different buff. But for my current build, Boon of the Thief is important. So do not forget to get to pray at a Mundus Stone and get that buff. So that's another thing you want to do early on. So that should be the majority of everything that I wanted to cover. I tried to do it as fast as humanly possible, but that covers characters and questing. This is stuff that is absolutely essential if you want to level as quickly and also as efficiently as humanly possible. Yeah, I did release a video where you can kind of power level yourself. You can see that on my channel. There are other ways to power level and to get strong very quickly. The problem is that if you get very high level but you don't have any skill points, you're not going to be able to level up all of this stuff. Every single one of these things takes skill points. I've only found 54 out of 381. Even though they're on my map, the sky shards are all spread out, so it takes a lot of time. I should mention quickly too that there is a such thing as called a way shrine. Once you've been someplace, you can click on it and you can teleport to that place for fast traveling. But it does become progressively more expensive the more you do it in a quick time. So you're going to want to do that, sparingly, so that you don't waste all of your money just kind of teleporting around. So that's it. You're going to want to skip most of the side quests, even if you're one of these achievement crazy maniacs who wants to do everything humanly possible. I would suggest staying away from it because it'll make it difficult to find the main alliance or zone quest. I will link in the description a nice comprehensive guide that you guys can follow for this specific purpose. But if you go online and you go to this URL right here, you can, and this is for the Daggerfall Covenant, you can do different ones, but this is a really nice comprehensive guide to stay on the quest chain. It does have little bubbles that walk you through the quests, and you can click on them and find the NPC, because sometimes this quest chain will stop all on its own, and you need to find out what zone it's in, who gives the quest, and how to get yourself back on track. So hopefully that's beneficial. That will be linked in the description. Future videos will be much, much shorter, but much more highly focused on specific concepts for this game. So this has been a crash course in Elder Scrolls Online. Everything you need to know to get started and to be very efficient. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you bared with me until the end. Please leave any comments or any kind of improvements I can make in the future, and there will be a lot more action-packed and interesting stuff in future videos. Also, point out anything that I forgot so that a new person can have it, and I will add it into a future video. So thank you guys so much for checking this out. Hopefully we will have lots of fun and enjoyment and wonderful things to cover in the world of Elder Scrolls Online.